Hello, everybody. This is Astrologer Dawn. You can find out more about me, my services, my products at astrologerdawn.com. So please check out that place. I'm doing a week or 10 days of tarot. So if you have a question and you join this call, and I have no idea how long it's going to be, or join this Facebook Live thing, and have a question, please write it, because I will be happy to answer it. So today, and it's interesting because I wanted to do about love, because there's a lot of cards in the deck that represent love. And so it made me think about, good time for us to be looking at love. There's a lot of people who come to me and ask about love. And then I just literally stopped watching the new video for Ed Sheeran's Perfect, which of course is about love, and it's fabulous. So I was like, oh, this is great timing. Okay, so we've got a lot of cards for love. And obviously, it depends upon how they show up in when you do a reading, or if you're doing cards for yourself, it's the questions that you ask. So I wanted to go over some of the cards that could show up when you're talking about love or you're looking for love. And it depends upon the type of question that you ask around love. Of course, that's going to make a big difference. So, first one, the obvious one is that we've got the Ace of Cups, and this is the Robin Hood deck that I'm using. So the Ace of Cups is usually new love. That is an opportunity for you to get involved with somebody new. It can also be in terms of love. It's usually love between adults. So it's not like love for a child. So that's a different kind of card. But this is usually when you're going to embark on a new romantic relationship, or it's just started. So sometimes this will show up and the client will not have told me about the new love that showed up in their life. And I'll tell them, oh, you've got new love that just showed up. Or sometimes this could be what's coming up. If you've been looking for a relationship, then sometimes the Ace of Cups will be the one that shows up when there is a new love that's available. And speaking of new love, these two cards, when we're talking about new love, we have got the Page of Cups and the Knight of Cups. And the Page of Cups is very new love. It's like, it could be a friendship that turned into love. And then the Knight of Cups, it's usually moved on a little bit further. It's usually an opportunity for you to sort of go deeper, to go deeper. This is the Knight of Cups and the Page of Cups. Again, I think I'll have to put them closer. Maybe that's better. Knight of Cups, Page of Cups. These are about the beginnings of relationships. Also, when we talk about relationships, and I've laid a whole bunch of cards out here for myself so that I can sort of put them in some kind of order, because, of course, we've got the new relationship. We've got the one that is sort of in process. It's sort of relatively new. You're still not sure about it, but things are going well. These are all about things going well, of course. When you meet what we consider your soulmate, this card, Two of Cups. Two of Cups can show up, and that shows, that can also be a marriage as well. This card is very much about marriage. So a marriage, a relationship, something that's cemented strongly between the two of you. I'm going to move these cards out of the way as I talk about them. We've also got, so here's another card that can indicate, this is the Lover's card. And this one usually indicates, it's kind of funny because Blake always, when I show this one on the Cayman Islands, Blake is always pointing to the man and saying, how many new cards do you have, Dawn? Which I can't. The Lover's card very much about, of course, soulmates. It can also be you. See, here's the other thing about, if you get this in a reading, okay. So if you get this lover's card, it can also be about how you combine everything that you know about you and that you love about you. So it depends upon what you're asking. If you're asking about a relationship, of course, that's what this is going to be refer to. But sometimes the Lover's card is about how you put all the pieces of yourself together, how you've really sort of come together, grown, changed, and now feeling like being at one. That would be another one. Wedding cards, getting married cards. Okay, so we've got the Six of Wands and we've got the Four of Wands. This is, these are both wedding cards, actually. And of course, it depends on how you get them. When you get them upright, you know, upright, which is that way, that usually means a wedding, a union together, a civil partnership. Depends, anything that feels like a marriage to you. It doesn't have to be a marriage. You could be moving in with somebody. You know, you could live without somebody for 60 years. The universe recognizes it as a marriage. It's really just a partnership. Now, when you have them upside down, that is when the problems arise, because it's usually things going wrong in that relationship. And either one can show up. I mean, you're at a different stage. The Four, you're not quite ready to make that change. The worst hasn't usually happened at that point. When you get to the Six, you know, you've made that decision that this relationship is not working, and so you're going to have to move on to it. Let's say, and again, we got the same thing here going on, whether it's happy marriage or unhappy marriage, happy relationship, unhappy relationship. This is upright. So we've got the Ten of Pentacles, we've got the Ten of Cups. So the Ten of Cups is happy family, kids, dogs, cats, you know, all that kind of stuff. The Ten of Cups is very much about things moving forward, joining families together. So if it's a second marriage, very happy. This is a happy card too, because this is a happy card as well, because this is not just the happy marriage, family, kids, dogs, you know, the whole 9 yards. This is also about being okay financially. So sometimes this can show up when you're moving with your family from one house to another, but it also is being able to have the money that you want in order to enjoy the family vacations and doing things with ease. So this is another happy family card. And again, you know, if this shows up in a reading, I'm probably going to tell you that there's something wrong in the family. There's something going on that needs to be sorted out. There's something going on that people need to, you know, be really aware of. Same thing when this is upside down. There can be an affair going on. There's a disruption. Let's put it that way. There's a disruption of the family union. Okay. Now, other cards. So this card, which is the Six of Cups. This is usually about somebody coming back from the past. And I certainly get this a lot more when we have online dating, and, you know, the number of people that have contacted me and said, well, I went to my kindergarten reunion and I met a guy I knew 40 years ago and now we're involved. So sometimes this has been coming up a lot more since Facebook's been around, Snapchat, anything that has to do with relationships, but relationships from the past. So usually this is about re-meeting somebody from the past, bumping into somebody from the past, but in a love term, in a love relationship. Now, this can happen whether you're married or not. It doesn't have anything to do with that. Again, be careful when it's the other way around. It's like, be careful of that person from the past. There's a reason that you didn't stay with them in the first place. So let's just make sure you don't make the same mistake again, because that can be, you know, that's an easy thing for us to do. We've got peace and serenity, of course. You know, these all also pertain to children. So when you've got the Empress card and we're looking at relationships, this usually means a pregnancy. It certainly can be being very creative, especially when it comes to outside of the family. Creativity in terms of, do you want to sculpt? Do you have an art piece that you want to do? So it's a very nurturing of self, but it also indicates children. You know, so sometimes when people come to me and they've been married for a while or living together for a while and they want to have a child, and that card comes up, usually the answer is yes. So then more celebration of pregnancy, the celebration as well. This can be going to a wedding. This can be I'm going to a christening. So sometimes what happens, I might see this particular card if a client of mine is going to a wedding and they might meet somebody. So usually, sometimes I just had this card and this card together. And I said to them, are you going to a wedding? And she said, oh, yes. And I said, are you taking anybody? She said, no. I said, well, don't worry about that because you're going to meet somebody there. And actually, she did. So it was just a sort of a throwaway thing at the last moment. Peace and serenity. This is what you're looking for, not only within yourself, star card, but certainly also to do with peace and serenity with children. This can also be a female child that you might have. Never ask me about the sex of a child because I'm useless. So if I say a boy, you'd think, well, it'll be a girl, and if Dawn says it's a boy, but no, it could be a boy. Or I could say a boy and it will be a girl, or maybe it won't, maybe it will be a boy. So you really have to be careful. Okay, 2 cards, very important. Let's do one of them. So this is what's called the wish card, and you can probably tell that when you're looking so happy. This is the 9 of Cups, and this is getting your wish. Be careful for what you wish for. Just remember, we can be wishing to be with somebody, a certain person, and then we end up with them. We go, oh, be careful for what I wish for. So this 9 of Cups is getting your wish. So when this shows up in a reading, getting your wish, depends on what you've asked me about. But if you've asked me about a love relationship, getting your wish usually means you're going to get what it is you want. Now, again, this could come up if you're getting divorced, because you'd still be happy about that, remember, if you're getting divorced, because that's where you're at. Next, High Priestess. High Priestess, this is the intuition card, one of my favorite. And this is about, the reason that this is about relationships is that you always need to tap into this. When you meet somebody in which you're interested in a romantic way, go straight to your intuition. And usually, again, when this card shows up in a consultation, I can usually ask somebody, what are you wishing for? Are you hoping for this to go? What does your instinct say? What does your intuition say? Because usually it means you've got really strong intuition. Okay, so I've got 3 cards that would indicate negative and being relieved from the negative. Of course, when somebody asks me about a relationship and maybe that relationship isn't going well, and I mean, you only have to look at that card. What I like is when I cover the camera, everything goes beautifully round behind. Anyway, 3 of Swords. I mean, you can see what that is, can't you? I mean, that is heartbreak. Complete heartbreak. So if somebody asks me about their relationship and I get this card, sometimes it's because the heartbreak's already happened and they know about it. Sometimes they don't know about it. A lot of times people know, and that's why they seek me out in terms of talking about a relationship, that they've already, experienced this being stabbed in the heart. And that can be, so many different things that can have happened in a relationship. So you really want to sort of just take a look, and if this card shows up, you've got to be honest with yourself about, am I really being true to myself? It's a communications card as well. This is a 3, so it's a communications card. Now, of course, when we have reversed, the worst is over. Your heartbreak is over. Like, there's no more to come. So even if you find out something about your partner and you're being given these revelations, you've been given them all now. Like, don't worry about it. Sometimes when people talk to me about relationships and, I'm asking them about their list of what they're looking for in terms of relationships, and they'll tell me about the person that they're involved with. And unfortunately, the person that they're involved with does not possess what they have on their list, but they want to make that work. This card shows up. This is the 8 of Swords. This is the prison of your own making. I really want you to take a good look at it. And here's the reason why. If you look at this particular card, she's blindfolded, she's bound, but she's standing on some ground, as you can see. Now, What happens with all those swords around her? Well, there's no swords in front of her, they're all behind her. All she has to do is step back, use the sword to break those binds that are around her, take off the blindfold, look forward. And so that's why this is a prison of your own making, because you're not seeing that you're making it for yourself. So, again, it usually comes back to when somebody says to me, well, he cheated on me and I don't know whether to take him back. How many times has he cheated on me? Well, it's only been 4 times. Really? Well, what stops you thinking it's going to be a 5th? You are in a prison of your own making. So you have to be very careful. You've got to be very honest. Because it can be you want to hold on to something that's just not working. You really, really, really want it to work. You're really, really, really wanting it to work. Don't make it work. It means that you're trying to put energy into something that is not going anywhere. And so it's a prison of your own making. And when you get out of that, you're able to go, oh, wow, I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I spent so much time with that person. And how come I didn't see? Well, because there's lessons. Another card that tells us we need to walk away from something. This would be the 8 of Cups. We're turning our back on love or potential love. We're turning our back on, we're looking at the cup half empty instead of half full. And in a particular situation where a relationship needs to end, that's actually okay. Because you're looking at the cup half empty instead of half full. When it's ending of a love relationship, you're looking at the cup half full instead of half empty. And it's really half empty when you get this card. So, so there's quite a lot. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There's like 18 cards here that pertain to love. And I could pull other ones out that could pertain to love as well. So you want to make sure when you're asking love questions that you really want the answer. Does anybody have a question? If you have a question, please, about love, please type it into the comments section. And when I see it, I can answer it. If you've got a new relationship, or if you've got a relationship that you've just got back into again, maybe you've been with that person before and you've just re-engaged with them and you want to see where that's going, if it's going to be better this time. May have been reasons that you separated the first time that had nothing to do with cheating or not being in love, just, disconnect in terms of timing. If you're involved in a relationship and it's not going well, then it may be time to take a look at. It's not usually the person who comes to me that can do anything about the relationship. What I usually ask people who are in relationships that are not going well, I'm just going to use a husband and a wife as an example. So the wife comes to me and asks me questions about the relationship and where it's going. Before I even draw cards, I go sort of straight into coaching. And I ask the question, so is your husband willing to go to therapy or talk to a pastor or pastor, as you say in this country? Pastor's something you eat, isn't it? Anyway, your pastor, your vicar, your father as in person from the church, somebody else, some other kind of counselor or therapist. Is your husband willing to go and do that? And if the answer is no, which most of the time the answer is no, then I have to ask you all, then what's the point? What are you doing with this person? Because they're never going to change. Because how would they change? Because they've got no new information coming. And eventually you're just going to feel more and more alone. You are just going to feel like this is not going where I want it to go. I'm not getting what I want. And then you have to ask yourself, how many years do you want to do that? How many years? I have a client who gave up about 15 years of her life to this gentleman. No, I'm not even calling him that. To this man. And turns out he didn't. She really wanted children. He was umming and ahhing and umming and ahhing and umming and ahhing. Little did she know that he had a second family where he had 3 kids already. 15 years this went on for. And of course, by that time she was too old to have her own. And it took her coming to me and for me really looking at the two of them together to see, you do know that he's got another family. And she was like so shocked. She did find out that that was true. So you really have to be, you've got to be honest. And when I think about love, are they the one? Go to your list. What is on your list of what you're looking for? You know, we need physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, and psychological availability. If somebody is separated but not divorced, they're not available. I know you guys don't like to hear this because you want to get into relationships, but if you get involved with somebody and they've only just separated, keep in mind that you're their transitional man or woman. You're not the one. The one doesn't come immediately afterwards. And anybody, if you look at the statistics of people who have affairs and then they marry that person, a huge portion of the time that doesn't work out because they were in transition. If you want to manifest the type of relationship that you want, you've got to be clear, you know, so you use those availability pieces and then you check out, you ask questions of the person. You know, you want to hear about their belief systems. The minute a guy opens his mouth and says, you know, looks like the date's going great, and he says, yeah, well, since my divorce, I had to move back in with my mother. Huge red flag, ladies. Huge red flag. Unless his father's recently died and he's an only child and his mother could really do with the, you know, the person being there, you know, then you really don't want to have anything to do with them as well. You know, in terms of human design, a lot of people have that desire and that need for that relationship. In fact, 70% of you in the world have got to have, you know, some kind of relationship. And most of us need to have connections with other people anyway. So if you look at your human design chart, you'll sort of find out more about how you love as well. You know, if you're ruled by your solar plexus energy, and if you've had your human design chart done with me, you know what that is. But if you're ruled by solar plexus energy, you get very emotional about relationships. And there's a lot of up and down emotions in relationships. And until you come to that, you know, when you meet somebody and your emotional wave is going up and down, it's not until it settles that you can decide whether you're going to have that relationship. You have to sleep on things. Somebody asks you for a date, not that night. You say, let me think about that and I'll get back to you. Not really thinking, what you're doing is processing within your body. If you are sacrally driven, it's an immediate yes or an immediate no in your gut. You'll feel it. It'll be, yeah, I'd love to go on a date, or I'm really busy doing something else. And I'm not an advocate for lying. So when I say for you to say to somebody else, I'm sorry, I'm busy doing something else, you need to be busy doing something, taking care of yourself, like painting your toenails, or, you know, washing your hair, or watching, you know, the second season of Stranger Things. Don't lie, but you can sort of fudge things a little bit, you know, and then step back and ask yourself, what is it about that person that is not really working? You know, in human design, it's not quite the same as astrology. You know, in astrology, if I look at somebody's moon and it's in Aquarius, I'm looking for their partner to have a moon sign that is compatible. So it's very different. And in human design, I'm really looking to see what you have and what the other person has, and whether you have too much of the same thing or whether you have compatibility. You know, where one of you has one half of the line in your human design chart and the other person has the other half of the line, which means, you know, you make a complete line in your human design chart. It's a little bit more complicated when it comes to human design. But when it comes to astrology, that's actually quite simple, because you're looking at the moon, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. And if you've got some compatibility in there, you can overcome a lot of things. You also have to remember, though, in any of this stuff, same with the cards, you can change things. So if you're having a relationship with somebody and the cards indicate you're going towards marriage, you can break up with them if you want. So that'll stop that. If you're with somebody who I've told you, this is not a good match for you, you really need to be careful, you know, this is not going to work out for you, but you continue to stay with that person, eventually, you know, you've got to ask yourself, how long do I want to, you know, live like this? Catherine Young, who I absolutely Dora, of course, my friend who's a medium, she was telling me once that somebody had said when a woman had gone to a therapist and was telling the therapist how bad her marriage was, the therapist said, well, how much longer do you want to stay in it? And I actually asked my clients this. How much longer do you want to stay in it? 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, 30 years? Usually it shocks people into, good grief, I don't want to give another year to this. Oh, really? Because the way you're going, that's what it looks like. So sometimes you need that, sharp poke in the eye so that you will make a change. And all of this comes back to intuition. For those of you who remember that Catherine and I did a whole series on intuitivepathfinders.com, please, it's free. Go check out. I think we've got 16 podcasts there, all half an hour long and also an hour long as well. But it's all about intuition. So if you're not sure about your intuition or how it works, please go listen to that, because we explain very clearly in 16 podcasts about intuition. Now, in terms of love, how do we distinguish between desire and intuition? Well, intuition is stronger than desire. So if your desire is stronger than your intuition, we got to work on getting your intuition stronger. Because of course we have desire. But our intuition is the small, still voice that speaks only once, regardless of whether your solar plexus in your body, whether you've got a lot of water signs in your astrological chart, which rule emotions, solar plexus rules emotions, regardless of what's going on with that, you've always got to come from that. There's a place within you, and it's different in everybody. There's a place within you where you have sort of a knowing. It might be, yes, you have a desire for this person, and yet there's that tiny little voice that says something. He'll say a sentence, and your intuition will go, or ooh. Well, there'll be something really tiny that sort of takes away from that desire, from that attraction. And the problem is we don't listen to it. We really need to listen to that voice so that we can hear it, so that we can really hear, is this somebody for me? Is this just my desire, or is this really my intuition? Strengthening your intuition is always going to be the best thing that you can do. The stronger your intuition, the easier it is to live any kind of life, whether it's with somebody, without somebody, doing the correct job, being in the correct environment, living in the correct place in this world. All of it comes ultimately from intuition. And like I said, the biggest thing that I get is the majority of people that come to me are not compatible with whoever they're with. I do have some that are, but this is the people who come to me to talk about their love life. People who come to me to talk about their career don't usually have a problem in their love life. Usually things are going fine with their husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends. It's just not an issue. So it's the people who come to me over their love life that usually have really got an issue that's going on, that they don't want to listen to their intuition. They want the other person to change. They want a miraculous thing to happen. So this is what a miraculous thing is. Opportunity to use this. Here's my magic wand. It works intermittently. Oh, it's working. So when you come to me and ask me if it's all going to work out, and I say, no, it's not, and you ask me, could I do something to change that? There we are. There's your magic wand. Doesn't change anything. Pretty, but it doesn't change anything. So you've really got to listen to that underlying in terms of relationships. And also when you're in a relationship, something doesn't feel correct. This is how relationships go wrong, and we have more people divorced than we have married. Or the divorce rate is higher than people who stay married. The minute that something doesn't feel correct, open your mouth, speak up, say, well, that doesn't sound right, or that doesn't feel correct, or what do you mean by that, or where are you going with that? The sooner that you catch all of that stuff, the more likelihood you are that you're going to stay in that relationship, and that it's going to work out great for you, because you're setting boundaries as well, and you're listening to your intuition. So the minute something doesn't feel right in the relationship, say that to your partner, something doesn't feel right. And it'll be pertaining to something that's happened. And listen, because if they say to you, oh, no, there's nothing going on, listen to your intuition. If your intuition says, something about that answer doesn't feel right, you're going to have to do some more digging. And you're probably looking at a relationship that's going to end. So that's the other thing as well. Being really clear. Start with being really clear. And if you're in a relationship, but you're not, and the relationship's not going the way you want it or not really working the way you want it, get that written list out. What do you want the characteristics, values, and beliefs to be of the person with whom you want to be involved? Write it down. Put it under your pillow. Put it in the kitchen. Put it on the refrigerator so you can see it all the time. Put it in a little laminated. I have a couple of clients that have done this. They put it in a business card, laminated it, and on the front side it says what they're looking for, and on the back side it says who they are and what they have to offer with a telephone. They're not prostitutes. They're just, telling somebody what they want. And it's worked out really well for the several people that have done this because it's interesting to do something new, and you're really clear about what it is you want. So when you start from that clarity, so write your list, even if you're involved with somebody, write your list of what are the values, the characteristics, and the beliefs. What do you want to be doing with that person? Forget about the person you're with, just write the list. Then think about the person that you're with and look at the list. And unless they've got at least 80% or are going in the direction of having 80%, it's probably not going to work. So you really want to look at, oh, wow, this doesn't work in this relationship. I'm really good with money, and they spend money all the time, and yet they're the ones that want to handle the money. We're going to need to make a change here. I can deal with the person spending all the money, but I need to be in charge of it so I can see where it's all going. So you can make changes, Anyway, that's enough for today. It's Friday. It feels like it's a Saturday. Tomorrow, it's going to be at 9 a.m. Reason being, it's my wedding anniversary tomorrow. And no, I didn't deliberately get married on 11/11. I happened to get married on 11/11 at 11 o'clock. But it was 1994, I guess. It must be 94, 95, something like that. 94. 17 years, 94. So, and it was in England, and we have Poppy Day, same day. But I didn't even realize it was that. It was the first day that I was available to get married. It was the first day my husband was off work. So that's how we ended up getting married on 11/11. Not because it was some kind of spiritual, number. Anyway, so tomorrow morning will be 9 a.m. Don't know what the topic will be. Usually it comes to me during the day. If you have something that you'd like to ask, please let me know. You can always send me an email, dawn@astrologerdawn.com. You can find that information on my website. Also, check out the tarot class that starts this Tuesday. I still have a little bit of space in it. It's a 5-week tarot learning the tarot, so you can do this for yourself. Does that mean I'm pricing myself out of a job? No, because you'll always need me for other things. Being able to read the cards for yourself is a great thing that you can do. It can really help keep you centered. And learning it in a class with somebody that you know and that you trust is also a good idea. And then practicing. I'm going to teach you guys how to practice it so that you can become fully proficient, so that you can either read for yourself or you can read for other people. I'm really big on, if you want to read for other people, I'll show you how to do that too. So check out astrologerdawn.com and look for my tarot class. And I'm going to go watch the next episode of Stranger Things. So I will see you all tomorrow. Namaste. Bye.